Well, good evening, Robert. I have a good question for you, Robert. What happens if I'm no longer on YouTube? That'll be my first question. It's about the new year, but let's discuss a couple of things on here this morning. Robert, what are you going to do? Well, I have a good idea. You'll find somebody else. But what are you going to do if I never posted on YouTube and I don't give you a reason to be? Any new hobbies? I know I'm your hobby. Which I think is sad, by the way. One thing we always hear about Mr. Robert Clausen, Popeye, the one thing about him, he preaches hate all the time, that other people are hateful people. And what does he do? Now, we all talk about Barry, because he's such a big topic on here and everything that's going on, right? Every man has a story. Yeah, I heard. I never really listened to him. I seen just a few shows of his. I told you, people are dropping like flies. They're dropping like flies. Says he's doing a simulcast. Popeye is probably the worst hateful person on YouTube to date. Excuse me, I got to sneeze here. Excuse me. Better than a fucking burp. Popeye himself, let me just, and I don't want to make this show all about Popeye, but something I want to get out about this guy. Something like I haven't really said before, but let's just emphasize this a little bit more. Yeah, exactly. A beer called Wilbur. I love that title, by the way. That handle. I can think of a lot of handles, but that's quite unusual. Popeye is the most hateful person that's actually on YouTube. I think it's because he has so many frustrations in his life that things didn't go the way he wanted to. Wife leaving him, and only thing he could talk about is his Navy career and so forth. And, well, look, whether it's true or not that he needs a mobility scooter, that's besides the point. If he does, he does. Shit happens. But a person who's trying to present himself as Mr. Perfect, one of the things Popeye is very proud of is that, well, first of all, he'll call me a pedophile too. But you see, Popeye can do this stuff, and he already said that openly. He said, nobody's going to do nothing to him. Nobody can do anything to him because he's all the way over on the East Coast of America. I can say what I want. I can call Frank a pedophile. He can call me this name, that name, this name. That is the earmark of being a true coward. Yeah, 40 years. Imagine that. Wilbur. I'll call you Wilbur because it's just, instead of saying the whole name, a bear called Wilbur. Okay. Merciful. Merciful, I don't even understand why you come on my channel. Because you're very supportive of Barry. Why do you come on my channel? You think I don't read your comments on there? How you're somewhat supportive of him? Correct me if I'm wrong, but you seem to be a big fan of Barry. Anyway, Popeye spews out more hate than anybody on here. See, that's what happens when you get older and you're so frustrated. He's got no real hobbies except perhaps, going to a casino every now and then, going to a bingo game. He just totally gave in to being old. And you know what I meant, because I talk about that a lot. You're really old if you act old, look old, dress old, and do the kind of things that he does. Popeye's the most hateful person, but he's the biggest by far. If you want to put on an awards ceremony for the biggest coward on YouTube, it's not Barry. He's on the list, but Popeye is on the biggest list of being the biggest cowards on here. He hides behind his computer or cell phone, whatever he's using, laptop, and spews out all this shit about me. It's not just me. Through the years, it's been just about everybody. He criticizes, critiques everybody. Everybody. I could just imagine the life he actually lives. For a man that has to put simulcast on me all the time, I don't understand what he's actually trying to prove. Popeye's actually done worse than Barry. But you see, people like him that are true cowards, they come on their computer, and they'll call you every name in a book, tell you you're hateful, say you're a pedophile. They know everything about you, that you got no money, that you're going to die, or whatever it is. People like this are the very ones that are living the exact opposite life of what they try to portray their life to be, that they're better than everybody else. Popeye, Robert Clausen, is a lost soul. His wife left him. He lives his lonely life in an inherited house from his mother, Jean. Would he be able to afford it otherwise? I'm somewhat doubting that. But what is Popeye actually doing with his life? Nothing. Nothing at all. Except getting on YouTube and criticizing me, for one. Popeye, you only wish you could live my life. You only wish that you had a loving partner. You can only use your hand so much, and you're going to get calluses, and you're going to desensitize your pecker. That if you ever got to a point you could actually find a woman who would fuck you, you wouldn't get it up because you're too desensitized from using your hand on your pecker. Yeah, decades of loneliness has taken a toll on Popeye. You got that right. I think he is a smoker, because I told you it takes a smoker to know a smoker. I could hear his voice. And my voice changed through the years. It's a natural process if you've been smoking or just environmentally. But always at the end of a sentence, he has to kind of clear his throat or something. He smokes, he drinks. He's a desperate, aging man who has nothing to live for except maybe me. So the question is, if it wasn't me, and if I wasn't on YouTube anymore, what would Popeye, Robert Clausen, what would he do with his life? If I was out of the picture here, dead or off YouTube, who would be his next victim? I think if he spent more time trying to live life and make the best that he can at his age, he wouldn't need to come on YouTube and spout out all his hate. And he talks about hate. The other thing is that he somewhat professes to be a religious person. And that's one of the reasons that I don't take to any organized religion, because I've always found that they're the biggest hypocrites in the world. And Robert Clausen is certainly on that list of being one of the biggest hypocrites, certainly on the YouTube circuit, because he does everything against what a godly person would do. He's entirely hateful, self-righteous, very opinionated about everybody else but himself. Always has a lot to say, certainly about me. Well, let me tell you about me, Robert Clausen. I've achieved something that you'll never be able to achieve. Yes, I've got the partner. Yes, I've got a loving relationship. Yes, I've actually made it to the Philippines instead of living your life vicariously through people like myself and others that have actually made it here, who've established themselves here in the Philippines. Loving partner, family, and let's define family. Again, it's not blood. Family doesn't have to be blood. You could come up with all the bullshit you want about how I'm not happy, or I'm broke, or my family here does not like me, if that makes you feel better about yourself. And I think that's what it's all about. Popeye needs to feel better about himself. There's no question about it. Yeah, decades of loneliness has really taken its toll on him. Anyway, just thought I'd bring that up. And plus he embarrasses himself by simulcasting my shows, because basically I'm giving him a mirror to reflect himself on. So when he records my shows and I tell all this truthful information about how I see his life, I think he hears it. But he'll always do a little thing at the end of my simulcast. Well, there he goes again. What do you think of that, folks? Robert, seriously, you need a life. You absolutely need a life. Do something before you croak. Look at all the people that are croaking now. How many people on YouTube have we lost already? And this is the way you want to be sent out in life. And you're a religious person. And this is what I mean about these so-called religious people who don't adhere to the morals and values and the whole ideology of religion and belief in God and country and all that stuff. He sure pushes the thing about the country. He's probably the biggest flag waver you'll ever find. When he knows damn well that the United States is falling apart and people are moving out, it's not the place that it used to be, not anymore. A bear called Will says the women left him, so he has a lot of resentment and anger. You're exactly right. That you hit the nail on the head. He has a lot of resentment in his life because he's upset. I know, because I had a friend that died the past 6 months ago, and he never got to experience a lot of life, and for a lot of reasons. Never had to have a girlfriend, anything. He was so resentful of life that death became a gift to him. His name is Larry, and I've known him since I was 5 years old. And I've kept in touch with Larry all these years. Every week we'd be in touch. He knew everything that was going on in my life. He was so envious of the fact that I had a life and he didn't. This is kind of like Popeye. They got the same syndrome going on. They couldn't experience life and things just didn't go their way. They were very resentful with life. Unfortunately for Larry, he developed cancer and he died. The last time I spoke to him, he had kind of gone downhill. I guess he went into a hospice and that was it. So I never heard from him again. Obviously, he's not around. His phone number's been disconnected now and he no longer exists. But my theory about it is no matter how old you are, you could still enjoy some aspect of your life and do something that's good for yourself to make your life worthwhile. Maybe to make up for lost time that you haven't been doing anything in your life that's worthwhile, except to engulf yourself and engorge yourself on hate, on trying to find wrongs with other people, such as myself. What makes you think that I live an unhappy life? I live my life. You don't live my life, Robert. I live my life. I'm happy with what I have. And I know one thing, when I do go to my grave and kick off like everybody else will eventually, we all do, and we all float, Popeye. You float too, Popeye. Except right now you're floating in your own fucking misery. So you could do your little soliloquy at the end of your show, and why don't you just tell people how you're really living? The fact is, your good friend Nico, you won't even meet up with Nico because you don't want Nico to see what you're looking like these days and how fucked up a life you're living. I know you smoke, I know you drink, you're not perfect. You're not even anywhere near perfect. In fact, you're totally fucking pathetic. I want to get all this shit out because the new year is going to bring some changes here. And in all likeliness that I will not have anything to do with YouTube at all. It doesn't mean I won't listen in, but I probably won't have anything to do with YouTube at all. I'm trying to get some business taken care of right now. So we're talking about a clean slate in the new year, if at all possible. Though if something is going to drag on, I think, a little bit longer with somebody. But I think the end results are going to be quite satisfactory. The one thing about me is I will deal with a situation at hand, how negative it might be. Even if I had a deportation thing going on here, I would deal with it. You know why? Because you have no choice to deal with something. That's what life is all about. You deal with the good and bad of life. You turn lemons into lemonade. That's what you do. And I have that capability of doing so. Hey, I was separated from my woman for 1 year and 2 months because of the COVID shit. Didn't stop my life from going on. I dealt with it in the best way I could. Unfortunately, that's sometimes things you have to do. Let's say if you develop a bad illness, you can't just wish it away. You have to deal with it. Correct? Yeah. No woman gives Popeye a second look in Florida. Why would they? I can only imagine what he's looking like now. I've seen pictures of him. But now, modern day, I can't even imagine. So Popeye, just go ahead, continue to do your simulcast, but what if I'm not doing YouTube anymore? What if I'm not on here at all? What are you going to do? Who's your next victim? Popeye, you know what? You're going to fucking hell. You're a religious person. You proclaim to be. How do you figure that? You know, I'm not a religious person, but isn't there supposed to be certain values that a religious person has with their belief in God and being very moral and, doing the right things because you're trying to score points with the big guy in the sky? Well, guess what, Popeye? You're doing the exact opposite. You know what I wish for you? I'll tell you what I wish for you. You know what a good after-death sentence would be for you? And this actually comes from a movie, The Devil and Miss Jones, and I've talked about this before. Your punishment in your life is going to be, you're going to find yourself in a purgatory situation, or maybe that would be hell for you, but you're going to have to listen to my voice over and over and over again for eternity. Or better yet, you're going to be forced to listen to your own hate over and over and over again for eternity. Like a recording playing over and over again of all the hateful things that you've said and done in your life. As in the movie Devil and Miss Jones, if you guys remember this movie, and that was a famous porno movie when they really had porno out there in the movie theaters and all that stuff. And basically, this woman was an nymphomaniac, a genuine nymphomaniac who had to have sex. She just had to have sex. Some people have a nervous tick. Some people are just born liars. But this woman was a nymphomaniac. So the whole context of the movie was that she was unhappy with her life and she was overwhelmed by her being a nymph. So she went in a bathtub and she slit her wrist, which I suggest for you. Of course, if you believe in, certain theology, and beliefs that it's a sin to take your own life and you're going to go to hell. First of all, I think you're already living in hell in your living life to start this off. So what happened with her, the devil of Miss Jones, is that she cut her wrist and that was a sin. So she wound up in hell. You know what hell was for her, Popeye? Remember, she was a nymphomaniac. Hell for her was that she was in this tiny room. And there was a man in the room who was out of his monkey-ass mind. And all he would talk about is an imaginary fly in the room, Popeye. Yeah, imaginary fly. He wasn't interested in sex. She was. That was her thing. And hell for her wound up being the total opposite of what her life was like, where she needed sex and wanted sex all the time, but she winds up in a situation in hell. Hell for her, payment for her lifestyle, is that she couldn't have sex anymore. No matter what she did in front of the guy, he wasn't interested. All he was talking about was this imaginary fly in the room, that he's going to get that fly. Like he's going to get me. Same difference in his living life. It's the same thing. Robert, you can't have sex more likely. Nobody would have sex with you. Nobody would want to have sex with you. You're going to wind up like this guy. That'll be your payment for all the hate. So if there is a God out there and there's a hell and a purgatory and all that stuff, you got an RSVP to fucking hell. Then again, I'm a little ahead of myself because his life right now is a living fucking hell. Yeah. Merciful says, Fistos, Barry demanding people to give him 5,000. Yeah, we'll get to that. Mr. Merciful says, Popeye and Nico live in the same county, yet they never met in real life. Popeye doesn't want anyone to see how defeated he looks. And yes, she did leave him. So Popeye, in your little soliloquy that you present after your simulcast of my show, why don't you tell people what your life is really like? You won't do that. You are the biggest coward in YouTube history, besides somebody else. I think you have made the top of the list. You could talk all the tough talk you want behind your fucking cell phone or laptop, whatever the fuck you use, don't make a difference to me. Because you said it yourself, nobody's going to touch me. I live 10,000 miles away. I'm not worried about anybody coming to my door. But you know what? I think you're thinking wrong. You think it's impossible? You think there's people out there that love you? There's a lot of people that can't stand you. And by the way, you're a horrible specimen for somebody that was in the service. You are not representing. You are a bad representative of anybody who has served the so-called country. You are a horrible representative of what you turned out to be. So stop talking about your service years. Why don't you honor, like in the service, honor was a really important element of being in the military. Honor. You know that word, Popeye? Honor. Where's your honor? With anything in life, for that fact. Where's your honor? You are a piss poor example of a man that served in some military function, whether it be the Navy, the Air Force, Coast Guard, whatever it might be. You're a shit poor example. And forgive me, folks, I didn't want to make this show entirely about Robert. You know, when you die, you're not just going to die, Papa. You are going to uggle to death because you're ugly in every fucking way, inside and out. You are going to uggle to death. Wilbur says Popeye acts tough by hiding behind the camera. That's exactly what he does. That's a true coward. It's real easy for Popeye hiding behind this wall that he creates of protection, his security zone. But in real life, if anybody approached him, and look, guys, I have a good memory for certain things. I remember several incidents on YouTube where somebody threatened him and they said they were going to be in the area. And you know what, folks? He hung low. He did not go on YouTube for an extended period of time. Why? Because somebody was going to take him up. Somebody was going to take him on about coming over there and see how brave he was. And he hid. That's exactly what happened. He hid. And he wasn't on for quite a while. And this happened on several occasions as I remember. Popeye, you are a coward, Robert. And just feel happy that I am not there, close to you. Because I would have the gagnoles to walk up to your door and say, hey, I'm here. What are you going to do now? What are you going to do now that I'm right in front of you? I did that with Ricky. What are you going to do? What are you going to do if somebody that can't stand you actually, and everybody knows your address in Florida. I know it. I've known it for years. So does everybody else. I could find you so easily if I had to. But I'm not a person who advocates violence. I'm just giving you a scenario here that if me or anybody else came up to your door, what would you do? You wouldn't come to that door. You'd be hiding and shaking in some basement or closet somewhere. So don't forget your little soliloquy at the end of the show. Do tell. Come out with it on how brave you are, what you would do if somebody actually approached you. All right, end of the story on Popeye. I just thought I'd throw that in. The new year's coming. And there's going to be some changes going on. All the way around. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I don't make resolutions. I try to make solutions, not resolutions. And when I start something, I try to finish it. And I don't care what it is, whether it's a project, whether it's legal. If I went to the trouble of starting something, I am going to finish it. You got a lot of people out there that talk the tough talk, but they're not tough at all. They can't walk the walk. Instead, words on YouTube, hiding behind their cameras. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. You ain't going to do shit. To me or anybody else, you're not going to do shit. Okay, that's out of the way. Unless somebody wants to add something on that one. Oh, he said it himself. Nobody's going to do nothing to me. I'm in America. Man, I've heard those kind of stories before. Then somebody comes over there and he's like, what the fuck? Hide me, daughter, hide me. Won't even come out of the house for a while. Even Barry threatened him. He was going to kill his dog and everything. And oh yeah, speaking of the goober, my God, he admits he was sending hate emails to the U.S. Embassy. Boy, we got some winners on here. We certainly do. Look, I'm not perfect in any way at all, but I'll tell you what, compared to these morons, compared to these psycho cases on here, I actually living a pretty damn good life when I think about it. People living vicariously through somebody else's life. People being jealous of somebody's life. They haven't even made it to Philippines. They can't come to the Philippines. They don't have the money to come to the Philippines. They're afraid to come to the Philippines, or they're not retired yet. They're not getting their pension, but they sure have a lot to say about other people living in the. That's a great way to start off your venture to want to live in the Philippines, right? Is to make enemies before you even get here. That's smart. Brilliant. Brilliant. Popeye couldn't make it here. He couldn't come here because he's got too many people that are pissed off at him. He's afraid to come to the Philippines. He's afraid to come here. Yeah, he threatens me. He wishes I'm dead, calls me a pedophile. That's coward talk. It's easy to say something through the internet, right? Because that person is not standing right in front of you. But I guarantee tell you, he wouldn't be saying that to my face if I was there in front of him. That would never happen. You'd see urine pouring down his shorts onto his knee-high socks. That's what you would see. Barry has two friends, Brevis and Butthead. What is Ricky back in Germany? He's sure talking bad about the Philippines, so why does he come back? He's saying that it's all over. It's all over for people now if you want to find a woman in the Philippines. No, it's over for him. He's been played out. There's plenty of women here that are looking for foreigners. They just don't want him. They just don't want him. I'll be right back. The fact is, there's plenty of Filipinos for everyone out here. But people like Ricky, and there are limitations as to what he can get out here. I mean, not every woman is that desperate that they want to take a foreigner that looks. There's plenty of women out here. The foreigner Filipino dating situation, it's not over with out here. It's just begun. This is excuses for people that can't get a Filipina out here. Oh, it's over in the Philippines. It's not the way it used to be. And, you know, all these chicks are going for these rich, younger men. That they don't need an older man because, well, if they could find a guy close to their age, that's a, you know, what do you call a credit card baby or whatever you call that? You know, like Brevis. He's probably living off his father's death money or something. I don't know. Plenty of Filipinos out here. If you can't get one, there has to be a reason. Because there's plenty out here. And if you're scoring zero, there has to be a reason for that. Travel Learn Request says you can't get a woman in the Philippines. You can't get a woman anywhere. Me? Or you just in general, like to Ricky? There's been a lot going on this year, hasn't there? There's been a lot going on. We'll see what the new year brings. Oh, Ricky losing out to younger, better-looking guys, and he knows it. Ricky is all over the planet. I mean, mentally and every other way. He knows he's not in good health, and I've always said it. I think he throws caution to the wind, and I think he knows his time is coming. He's going to be on the list of all these other people that are croaking out here. Ricky's so unsettled in his life. He doesn't know what to do with himself. He really doesn't. Yes, I remember to forget the days in Las Vegas. He was looking for those free coupons for free breakfast or something. He was combing the streets to find this is a guy that's living a 5-star lifestyle. You know, there's really nothing wrong with the Philippines here. I think it's all attitude. And yet, there are a lot of crazy things out here in the Philippines that sometimes are hard to get used to culturally. But I think that's like anywhere else. Forget about United States. It's over. That I could say is over. The dreams of the white picket fence and all that crap and 2 cars in the garage and, I don't know, a couple of chickens in the pot. Those days have been long over. And now we're going to have a dictator again as a president. That's going to be interesting. But you know what? At the moment, I'm not living there, and I hope I don't have to. But no matter where I am, I'll make the best of it of where I live. It's not going to change my attitude toward what I think is reality, what I think is fact or fiction, or my internal beliefs on just about everything. That doesn't change. I'm not the cattle of society. I've never been what I always call the cattle. I don't other people do it. That's one thing that differentiates me from most people. I'm not afraid to speak my mind. I'm not afraid to take action on something when I feel I need to take action on something. I'm not afraid of that. Sometimes in life you have to take chances to get the goal you want to get to. My goal was to live in the Philippines, and here I am. My goal was to find a great woman for myself. I've accomplished that too. Where I lack in family in the United States, I've gained in the Philippines. So things iron out. A bear called Wilbur, every girl Ricky has dated has been on payroll. Pretty much. Merciful. No quality woman would mess with Ricky. He gets the simple-minded, desperate ones. Pay for play. Well, you know, that's his choice. And I've always said that about people. You make the choices in your life and you got to live with it. Ricky is not living a good life. Everything is pretentious. Just a guy that fucked Barry over so fucking bad, but yet he went and paid. It's supposed to be our understanding that he paid Shaw to write up a complaint on me. And you know what? Him or Brevis. But then Brevis is really cutty-put with money. So maybe Brevis had a part in this somehow, but Brevis is just very cutty-put. So it's hard to imagine Brevis wanting to let loose of his pocket for anything like that. Brevis is upset with me because I rejected him as a friend. He came over here with the intent of going on information seeking, but you know, Brevis, he has to be around the happening people on YouTube. He wants to be in the limelight. He had to go over there after Fazio died and rummage through his stuff with Fazio's pseudo-girlfriend. He had to be there on the scene. That's what he does. He goes and finds the popular, controversial YouTubers and wants to place himself on camera to be there. He's looking for the attention that I guess he just never got in life. Everybody has some crutch. Just about everybody here on YouTube that are regular YouTubers, that are most hateful ones, are having problems in their life that they can't resolve, or they don't want to resolve, or don't know how to resolve, or they just plain got psychological issues that have never been addressed. Merschel says Brevis has to stretch his money to last long enough for his next inheritance. Yeah. Bear Cole Wilbur says, don't be surprised if Ricky has some kind of STD and keep it quiet. I would not be surprised. But then again, I don't know. He shows his bowl of Viagra. You remember he showed a big bowl of Viagra? Oh, I get it free. And well, I don't know. Does Viagra work for him? Considering he's got high blood pressure, he's got some illnesses, he's very fragile physiologically, and his obesity, I don't know if he could have sex at all. I don't know what the blue pills are for in his situation. I can't get this out of my mind how Philly the Philippines had admitted in the past that he used a penis pump. There's one thing to get personal on YouTube, but to get that personal, to tell people, it's got to be one of the most embarrassing things to have to use a penis pump. But, you know, like Kristen Sabu used to say, it gets the job done. Okay, fine. If your chick is okay with that, gets the job done. But don't announce that on YouTube. Merschel says Brevis is so strange, another lazy failure who drank his life away, impregnated a mountain girl the minute he stepped off the plane. Then he had this girlfriend he impregnated, who child died, unfortunately. Did he even show up for a funeral? Did he offer any money to help with expenses? This is the kind of person that Brevis is. Brevis came from a privileged life. His father was a professor or something, I don't know. Even Brevis went to supposedly an Ivy League type of school, sort of Ivy League. So what did he do? He got into the marijuana dispensary profession is what he did. A far cry than probably what his father wanted for him. A far cry. Isn't that amazing? That's just absolutely amazing. And of course, he had a restraining order on somebody. That's why he left the Philippines. The guy can't help but getting himself into trouble. He had to leave California to come to the Philippines to get away from some serious shit. Because there was some serious people that wanted to do some serious shit to him. He had to put a restraining order out, even to protect his family. It got so bad. It wasn't just for him and his family. So what did he do to somebody that was that egregious? That somebody wanted to take his fucking life. So yeah, the Philippines is off where he went. It's interesting when you examine the lives of these people and what led them here to the Philippines. They're all running away from something. Not toward, but they're running away from something. And Merciful, what side of the fence are you on anyway? You're always on, and then who else? You're always on. Brevis hates, but yeah, that's why I know that he's probably behind, along with Ricky or something, with this thing with Shaw. And it wouldn't surprise me. This is the psychology of these people. Brevis is butthurt because me and my girlfriend rejected his friendship, which wasn't going to be friendship. He just wanted to be around a notorious or popular or controversial YouTuber. That's what he does. And everyone he's visited so far, most of them anyway, have fit the billing on that. Have they not? Yeah, he's got problems. What a waste of money and education. It's funny that for a man that you would think would be so intelligent would do the dumbest things in life. There's a story about how he has a house in California. And the idea years ago, he's going to wait 6 years until it's paid off. Then he's going to sell it. And meanwhile, he's collecting rent. That's what he says anyway. I'm just repeating. You can't believe anybody on here anyway. Then when it's all paid off, he's going to have money to last in the rest of his life. In the Philippines. How much money does Brevis really have? Come on, he brings Barry a bag of some useless vegetables that he wouldn't even eat. But wait, he gave in on a brisket sandwich, didn't he? He gave in on a brisket sandwich. That was the highlight for Brevis. Okay, so let's get back to one of my favorite topics, Barry Lee Jordan, who has no clue what's going on with him at all. Brevis will just disappear when the money runs out, leaving his child behind. And that would not surprise me at all. He has no sense of responsibility. And the only reason he's still with his girlfriend is because he doesn't like being alone. He has to face the reality that he has a child that he has to support. But what did he do for the other woman that he impregnated? He left her. Penniless. Didn't even help, and likely didn't even show any condolences toward the death of his child. That's the kind of people we're dealing with here on YouTube. And people have the balls to even make mention about me and try to find fault with me. Well, I'm not fault-free, but I got to tell you something. Compared to these goobers, I'm on the top of the food chain. Yeah, I know, people believe that he was Russ Bundo, the guy who grew a few pot plants in his mom's shed and claims he runs a cannabis business. Bear Cole Wilbur says Barry is taking e-begging to the next level. He sure is. Yeah, he got monetized now. And although I don't think it came from CW, but I don't know. He shit in CW's face is what he did. CW once gave him 50,000 pesos. Then he trashed on CW. And supposedly the bromance was over. But then he blocked CW, and somebody else from UAE came in and said that he wants to be added in there. Here's 100 AED, which amounts to about $20 or something, and minus the fees from YouTube. So he made a total of about $25 US last night. He was in his glory, and minus the 30% or 33% or whatever it is. But he was in his glory. Yeehaw. I monetized. Man, that's the least of your problems, monetization. The kind of money that he needs to raise, I highly doubt it that he'll be able to raise it on YouTube. And even if he did and he came into this money, you know exactly what he's going to do with it. Nothing. Spend it on himself. Human rights organization going to get him out. Yeah, right. What about my rights? Human rights. Oh yeah, he always get these visitors. He's high. Even the commissioner, believe it or not, the commissioner at one time, the commissioner, he stated, came over to see him. And they all agree with him and this and that. The commissioner is not going to go out of his way to come to a detention cell with some fucking loser. Commissioner even. All the heads of state, I'm surprised the president didn't come over to his jail cell to visit him. That's next. Or Rafi Tufo sitting in the cell with him, taking notes. Human rights. He's never treated a human in his life rightfully. To get somebody in human rights to defend him, that's a joke. Look, one way or the other, Barry's going to get what's coming to him, one way or the other. You know, it comes down to this. Let the judge decide. Because either way, it's going to be a conviction of some sort. Mild, harsh, extra harsh, whether it's a slap on the wrist and a small fine, he's still going to be defined as an undesirable. He's going to be defined as being on the blacklist and never be able to come to this country again. And that's fine with me.